Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, just off the English Channel. We can see it from our window. Very refreshing, fresh air. Locked down here in the pandemic like everyone else practically. Anyway, it's starting to open up. Let's see what's going to happen. There's going to be all kinds of tensions increasing as there's clashes between what people want. It's Kali Yuga. It's the age of Kali, the age of quarrel. And all these things just bring those tendencies of Kali Yuga to the fore. But luckily for us, we can hear the Bhagavatam every day. And not in a negative way, but escape the madness. Escape the madness. Let us pray for the human population of the world. The wildlife is seeming to do better now that most human beings are tucked at home. The water is better, the air is better, squirrels are better, and other wildlife. Let's hope human society gets its message, and let's give them this message by somehow or other bringing the Bhagavatam into the homes of as many people as possible. We pray that you're using your technology to promote and even to get the Bhagavatam into more people's homes despite the pandemic. But for now, let's just sit together and hear the Bhagavatam. We're very, very fortunate. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatan Goswami tells it all. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprida. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Dotitaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life, air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshak Shadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nisdadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Anandana Mostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chotata kada hanamun chagadachin mam premna rit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Srila Pariksit Maharaj has left this world, and Shukadev Goswami just got up and walked off. And now we're going to hear more of the discussion between Sutta and the sages Naimisharanya. And yes, for the rest of the Bhagavatam. We'll start with, this is chapter 6, the chapter in which Pariksit Maharaj departs. And now we're on text 36. Shaunaka Rishi said, Shaunaka Rishi is the one who is representing the other sages in the Naimisharanya forest, performing this great sacrifice, which is culminating in the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shaunaka Rishi said, O gentle Sutta, please narrate to us how Paila and the other great intelligent disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, who were known as the standard authorities of Vedic wisdom, spoke and edited the Vedas. 37. Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmana, first, the subtle vibration of transcendental sound appeared from the sky of the heart of the most elevated Lord Brahma, whose mind was perfectly fixed in spiritual realization. One can perceive this subtle vibration when one stops all external hearing. Purport. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme Vedic literature, the sages headed by Shaunaka desired to trace out its source. Text 38. By worship of this subtle form of the Vedas, O Brahmana, mystic sages cleanse their hearts of all the contamination caused by impurity of substance, activity, and doer, and thus they attain freedom from repeated birth and death. 39. From that transcendental subtle vibration arose the Omkara, composed of 3 sounds. The Omkara has unseen potencies and manifests automatically within a purified heart. It is the representation of the Absolute Truth in all three of his phases: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Soul, and the Supreme Impersonal Truth. Text 40 and 41. This Omkara, ultimately non-material and imperceptible, is heard by the Supersoul without his possessing material ears or any other material senses. The entire expanse of Vedic sound is elaborated from Omkara, which appears from the soul within the sky of the heart. It is the direct designation of the self-originating Absolute Truth, the Supersoul, and is the secret essence and eternal seed of all Vedic hymns. Purport. The senses of a sleeping person do not function until he is awakened. Therefore, when a sleeping person is awakened by a noise, one may ask, who heard the noise? The words supta, shotre, in this verse indicate that the Supreme Lord within the heart hears the sound and awakens the sleeping living entities. The Lord's sensory activities always function on a superior level. Ultimately, all sounds vibrate within the sky, and in the internal region of the heart, there is a type of sky meant for the vibration of Vedic sounds. A seed or source of all Vedic sounds, the seed or source of all Vedic sounds is the Omkara. This is confirmed by the Vedic statement, Om it yetad brahmano nedishtam nama. The full elaboration of the Vedic seed sound is Srimad Bhagavatam, the greatest Vedic literature. 42. Omkara exhibited the three original sounds of the alphabet, A, U, and M. These three, O most eminent descendant of Bhrigu, sustain all the different threefold aspects of material existence, including the three modes of nature, the names of the Rig, Yajur, and Samavedas, the goals known as the Bur, Bhuvar, and Swar planetary systems, and the three functional platforms called waking, consciousness, sleep, and deep sleep. Text 43. From that Omkara, Lord Brahma created all the sounds of the alphabet, the vowels, consonants, semivowels, sibilants, and others, distinguished by such features as long and short measure. Text 44. The all-powerful Brahma made use of this collection of sounds to produce from his four faces the four Vedas, which appeared together with the sacred Omkara and the 7 Vyariti invocations. His intention was to propagate the process of Vedic sacrifice according to the different functions performed by the priests of each of the four Vedas. Text 45. Brahma taught these Vedas to his sons, who were great sages among the Brahmanas and experts in the art of Vedic recitation. They in turn took the role of acharyas and imparted the Vedas to their own sons. 46. In this way, throughout the cycles of 4 ages, generation after generation of disciples, all firmly fixed in their spiritual vows, have received these Vedas by disciplic succession. At the end of each Dwapara Yuga, the Vedas are edited into separate divisions by eminent sages. Text 47. Observing that people in general were diminished in their lifespan, strength, and intelligence by the influence of time, great sages took inspiration from the personality of Godhead sitting within their hearts and systematically divided the Vedas. 48 and 49. O Brahmana, in the present age of Vaivasvata Manu, the leaders of the universe led by Brahma and Shiva requested the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the protector of all the worlds, to save the principles of religion. O most fortunate Shaunaka, the Almighty Lord, exhibiting a divine spark of a portion of his plenary portion, then appeared in the womb of Satyabhati as the son of Parashara. In this form, named Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, he divided the one Veda into 4. Text 50. Srila Vyasadeva separated the mantras of the Rig, Atharva, Yajur, and Samavedas into 4 divisions, just as one sorts out a mixed collection of jewels into piles. Thus he composed 4 distinct Vedic literatures. Purport. When Lord Brahma first spoke the 4 Vedas with his 4 mouths, the mantras were mixed together like an unsorted collection of various types of jewels. Srila Vyasadeva sorted the Vedic mantras into 4 divisions, Samhitas, which then became the recognizable Rig, Atharva, Yajur, and Samavedas. Text 51. The most powerful and intelligent Vyasadeva called 4 of his disciples, O Brahmana, and entrusted to each of them one of these 4 Samhitas. 52 and 53. Srila Vyasadeva taught the first Samhita, the Rig Veda, to Pila, and gave this collection the name Bhavrichya. To the sage Vaishampayana, he spoke the collection of Yajur mantras, named Nigada. He taught the Samaveda mantras, designated as the Chandogya Sanghita, to Jaimini, and he spoke the Atharva Veda to his dear disciple, Sumantu. After dividing this Sanghita into two parts, the wise Pila spoke it to Indra Pramati and Bashkala. Bashkala further divided his collection into four parts, O Bhargava, and instructed them to his disciples, Bodhya, Yajnavalkya, Parashara, and Agnimitra. Indra Pramiti, the self-controlled sage, taught his Sanghita to the learned mystic Mandukeya, whose disciple Devamitra later passed down the divisions of the Rig Veda to Saubhari and others. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Mandukeya was the son of Indra Pramiti, from whom he received Vedic knowledge. 57. The son of Mandukeya, named Shakalya, divided his own collection into 5, entrusting one division each to Vatsya, Mudgala, Shalya, Gokalya, and Shishira. 58. The sage Jatukarnya was also a disciple of Shakalya, and after dividing the Sanghita he received from Shakalya into 3 parts, he added a 4th section, a Vedic glossary. He taught one of these parts to each of 4 disciples, Balaka, the second Pila, Jabala, and Viraja. Text 59. Bashkali assembled the Valalikya Samhita, a collection from all the branches of the Rig Veda. This collection was received by Valayani and Bhajya and Kashara. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Valayani, Bhajya, and Kashara belong to the Daitya community. 60. Thus these various Sanghitas of the Rig Veda were maintained through disciplic succession by these saintly Brahmanas. Simply by hearing of this distribution of the Vedic hymns, one will be freed from all sins. So now you know why you heard all that. Other than the fact that everyone wants to know the source of things. It's a natural human tendency. And depending on the elevation of the human intelligence, he'll want to know different things, the source of different things. So now we know kind of how the original Vedas came down to us through Vyasadeva. Text 61. The disciples of Vaishampayana became authorities in the Yajur Veda. They were known as the Charakas because they executed strict vows to free their guru from his sin of killing a Brahmana. 62. Once Yajnavalkya, one of the disciples of Vaishampayana, said, "O Master, how much benefit will be derived from the feeble endeavors of these weak disciples of yours? I will personally perform some outstanding penance." 63. Addressed thus, the spiritual master Vaishampayana became angry and said, "Go away from here. Enough of you, O disciple, who insults Brahmanas. Whoa! Furthermore, you must immediately give back everything I have taught you." Very interesting verse. Purport. Sri Vaishampayana was angry because one of his disciples, Yajnavalkya, was insulting the other disciples, who were, after all, qualified Brahmanas. Just as a father is disturbed when one son mistreats the father's other children, the spiritual master is very displeased if a proud disciple insults or mistreats the Guru's other disciples. 64, 65. Yajnavalkya, the son of Devarata, then vomited the mantras of the Yajurveda and went away from there. The assembled disciples, looking greedily upon these Yajur hymns, assumed the form of partridges and picked them all up. These divisions of the Yajurveda therefore became known as the most beautiful Taittiriya Sangita, the hymns collected by partridges, Titira. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, it is proper for a Brahmana to collect what has been vomited, and so the powerful Brahmana, disciples of Vaishampayana, assumed the form of titiras, partridges, and collected the valuable mantras. Text 66. My dear Brahmana Shonaka, Yajnavalkya then desired to find out Yajur mantras unknown to even his spiritual master. With this in mind, he offered attentive worship to the powerful Lord of the Sun. 67. Sri Yajnavalkya said, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as the Sun. You are present as the controller of the four kinds of living entities, beginning from Brahma and extending down to the blades of grass. Just as the sky is present both inside and outside every living being, you exist both within the hearts of all as the Supersoul and externally in the form of time. Just as the sky cannot be covered by the clouds present within it, you are never covered by any false material designation. By the flow of years, which are made up of the tiny fragments of time called chanas, lavas, and nimeshas, you alone maintain the world, drying up the waters and giving them back as rain. Purport. This prayer is not offered to the Sun God as an independent or autonomous entity, but rather to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, represented by his powerful expansion, the solar deity. Text 68. O glowing one, O powerful Lord of the Sun, you are the chief of all the demigods. I meditate with careful attention on your fiery globe, because for those who offer prayers to you 3 times daily, according to the Vedic method passed down through authorized disciplic succession, you burn away all sinful activities, all consequent suffering, and even the original seed of desire. 69. You are personally present as the indwelling Lord in the hearts of all moving and non-moving beings who depend completely on your shelter. Indeed, you animate their material minds, senses, and vital airs to act. Text 70. The world has been seized and swallowed by the python of darkness in its horrible mouth and has become unconscious as if dead. But mercifully glancing upon the sleeping people of the world, you rise them up with the gift of sight. Thus you are most magnanimous. At the 3 sacred junctures of each day, you engage the pious in the path of ultimate good, inducing them to perform religious duties that situate them in their spiritual position. Purport. According to the Vedic culture, the 3 higher classes of society, the intellectual, political, and mercantile sections, are formally connected with the spiritual master by initiation and receive the Gayatri mantra. This purifying mantra is chanted 3 times daily at sunrise, noon, and sunset. Auspicious moments for the performance of spiritual duties are calculated according to the sun's path in the sky, and this systematic scheduling of spiritual duties is here attributed to the sun as the representative of God. Text 71. Just like an earthly king, you travel about everywhere, spreading fear among the unholy, as the powerful deities of the directions offer you in their folded palms lotus flowers and other respectful presentations. 72. Therefore, my Lord, I am prayerfully approaching your lotus feet, which are honored by the spiritual masters of the three worlds, because I hope to receive from you mantras of the Yajurveda unknown to anyone else. Sutta Goswami said, satisfied by such glorification, the powerful sun god assumed the form of a horse and presented to the sage Yajnavalkya Yajur mantras previously unknown in human society. Text 74. From these countless hundreds of mantras of the Yajurveda, the powerful sage compiled 15 new branches of Vedic literature. These became known as the Vajrasaneyi Samhita because they were produced from the hairs of the horse's mane, and they were accepted in disciplic succession by the followers of Kanva, Madhyandina, and other rishis. 75. Jaimini Rishi, the authority of the Samaveda, had a son named Samantu, and the son of Samantu was Sutvan. The sage Jaimini spoke to each of them a different part of the Samaveda Samhita. 76 and 77. Sukarma, another disciple of Jaimini, was a great scholar. He divided the mighty tree of the Samaveda into 1,000 Samhitas. Then, O Brahmana, 3 disciples of Sukarma, Hiranyanaba, the son of Kushala, Pushjanji, and Avantya, who was very advanced in spiritual realization, took charge of the Sama mantras. 78. The 500 disciples of Poshanji and Avantya became known as the northern singers of the Samaveda, and in later times some of them also became known as eastern singers. 79. 5 other disciples of Paushanji, namely Laugakshi, Mangali, Kulya, Kushida, and Kukshi, each received 100 Samhitas. Text 80. Krita, the disciple of Hiranyanaba, spoke 24 Samhitas to his own disciples, and the remaining collections were passed down by the self-realized sage Avantya. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 12th Canto, 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Maharaja Pariksit Passes Away. Haribol. The glories of the Vedic knowledge. Haribol. So now we know how the Vedic knowledge has passed down, and the original 4 Vedas, in the original Vedic sacrifices, the different priests would chant these mantras for different purposes. See if I can remember something that I learned from my dear friend Gopi Paranadana Prabhu. The Rig Veda mantras were chanted in order to greet and satisfy all the guests that come to the sacrifice. And now the Samaveda and the Yajurveda had the effects of entertaining the guests. One of them. I don't remember whether it's the Sama or the Yajur, but one of those, the mantras were sung and they entertained the guests while everything was being prepared. And the Yajurveda was meant for transforming the articles, purifying and transforming the articles that were used in the sacrifice offerings into spiritual offerings, qualified them, purified them. Like for instance, the pots that are made by the Shudras and the different wooden paraphernalia and the Jagjit stala and all these things had to be transformed from mere material articles into spiritual offerings. So the Yajna mantras did that. So like that, it was the Vedic sacrifices were a really big deal. And everyone had their part to play. And every single person had to be satisfied. If one person was dissatisfied, the whole thing was ruined. That's why it's not practical in this age of Kali, where everybody's fighting over anything and everything for no reason at all, what to speak of, That's such an exalted public display of spiritual sacrifice. Okay, so now let's move on to chapter 7. We've heard now about how the Vedic sound came down through Brahma, through the Omkara, through the Vedas, then down to all the disciples of Brahma's sons, the first rishis who brought them. We've heard a little bit about how sometimes Vedic mantras are brought into the material world by sages who have the power to bring them in from their meditation. Now we're going to hear about the Puranic literatures, because all those sacrificial performances in Vedas, Vedic mantras, were all more or less materialistic. And that's why Krishna said to Arjuna in the Gita, Trividya Vishaya Veda, Nishtrigunya Bhavarjuna. O Arjuna, rise above the three modes. Because the three modes of nature have mainly to do with the three modes of nature and how to elevate oneself through them to get to the mode of goodness. Eventually, of course, to be able to worship Vishnu, but not with pure love, but with personal desires to elevate oneself, to purify oneself, and elevate the quality of one's life and of one's family members and dynasties and all of that. So now let's hear about the Puranic literatures. Chapter 7, the Puranic literatures. In this chapter, Sri Sutta Goswami describes the expansion of the branches of the Atharva Veda, enumerates the compilers of the Puranas, and explains the characteristic of a Purana. He then lists the 18 major Puranas and finishes his account by stating that any person who hears about these matters from someone in a proper disciplic succession will acquire spiritual potency. Text 1. Sutta Goswami said, Samantu Rishi, the authority of the Atharva Veda, taught his Samhita to his disciple Kabanda. Oh, Kabanda, that's the same Rakshasa, who in turn spoke it to Patya and Vedadarsha. Purport. As confirmed in the Vishnu Purana, Atharva Vedam Samuni Samantur Amitad Dyutihi Shishyam Adhyapayam Asa Kabandam Sopicha Dvida Kritva tu Vedadarshaya Tata Patyaya Datavan. The sage Sumantu, whose brilliance was immeasurable, taught the Atharva Veda to his disciple Kabanda. Kabanda in turn divided it into two parts and passed them down to Vedadarsha and Patya. Text 2. Shauklayani and Brahmabali, Modasha, Pipalayani, were disciples of Vedadarsha. Hear from me also the names of the disciples of Patya. My dear Brahmana, they are Kumuda, Shunaka, and Jajali, all of whom knew the Atharva Veda very well. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Vedadarsha divided his edition of the Atharva Veda into 4 parts and instructed them to his 4 disciples. Patya divided his edition into 3 parts and instructed it to 3 disciples mentioned, the 3 disciples mentioned here. Text 3. Babru and Saindavayana, disciples of Babru and Saindavayana, disciples of Shunaka, studied the 2 divisions of their spiritual master's compilation of the Atharva Veda. Saindavayana's disciple Savarna and disciples of other great sages also studied this edition of the Atharva Veda. Text 4. Nakshatrakalpa, Nakshatralkapa, Nakshatrakalpa, Shantikalpa, Kashyapa, Angirasa, and others were also among the acharyas of the Atharva Veda. Now, O sage, listen as I name the authorities on Puranic literature. Text 5. Trayayuni, Kashyapa, Savarni, Akritavrana, Vaishampayana, and Harita are the 6 masters of the Puranas. Each of them studied one of the 6 anthologies of the Puranas from my father, Ramaharshan, who was a disciple of Srila Vyasadeva. I became the disciple of these 6 authorities and thoroughly learned all their presentations of Puranic wisdom. That's Sutta Goswami is speaking. Ramaharshan, a disciple of Vedavyas, divided the Puranas into 4 basic compilations. The sage Kashyapa and I, along with Savarni and Akritavrana, a disciple of Rama, learned these 4 divisions. Text 8. O Shonaka, please hear with attention the characteristics of a Purana, which have been defined by the most eminent learned Brahmanas in accordance with Vedic literature. Text 9 and 10. O Brahmana, authorities on the matter understand a Purana to contain 10 characteristic topics: the creation of the universe, the subsequent creation of the worlds and beings, the maintenance of all living beings, their sustenance, the rule of various manus, the dynasties of great kings, the activities of such kings, annihilation, motivation, and the supreme shelter. Other scholars state that the great Puranas deal with these 10 topics, while lesser Puranas may deal with 5. Purport. The 10 subjects of a great Purana are also described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.10.1. Sri Shuka Uvacha, Atra Sargo Visargascha, Stanam Poshanam Uttayaha, Manvantare Shanukata, Nirodo Muktir Ashrayaha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, procreation by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of manus, the science of God, returning home, back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Puranas such as Srimad Bhagavatam deal with these 10 topics, whereas lesser Puranas deal with only 5, as stated in Vedic literature. Sargash cha pratisargas cha bangsho manbantarani cha bangshanu charitatam Vangsa Nucharitam Cheti Puranam Panchalakshanam. Creation, secondary creation, the dynasties of kings, the reigns of Manus, and the activities of various dynasties are the 5 characteristics of a Purana. Puranas covering 5 categories of knowledge are understood to be secondary Puranic literature. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained that the 10 principal topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are found within each of the 12 cantos. One should not try to assign each of the 10 topics to a particular canto, nor should the Srimad Bhagavatam be artificially interpreted to show that it deals with the topics successively. The simple fact is that in all aspects of knowledge important to human beings, summarized in the 10 categories mentioned above, are described with various degrees of emphasis and analysis throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 11. From the agitation of the original modes within the unmanifest material nature, the Mahatattva arises. From the Mahatattva comes the element false ego, which divides into 3 aspects. This threefold false ego further manifests as the subtle forms of perception, as the senses, and as the gross sense objects. The generation of all these is called creation. Text 12. The secondary creation, which exists by the mercy of the Lord, is the manifest amalgamation of the desires of the living entities. This is interesting. The secondary creation, this is the creation of Brahma. The secondary creation, which exists by the mercy of the Lord, is the manifest amalgamation of the desires of the living entities. Just as a seed produces additional seeds, activities that promote material desires in the performer produce moving and non-moving life forms. These are the secrets of the universe we're getting here. So nice. Purport. Just as a seed grows into a tree that produces thousands of new seeds. I said that already. Sorry. Did I say that? Yes. No, I haven't said this yet. Just as a seed grows into a tree, yes I did. This is so interesting though. Just as a seed grows into a tree that produces thousands of new seeds, material desire develops into fruitive activity that stimulates thousands of new desires within the heart of the conditioned soul. I didn't read this yet. The word Purushanugrhitanam indicates that by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one is allowed to desire and act in this world. Text 13. Vritti means the process of sustenance, by which the moving beings live upon the non-moving. For a human, vritti specifically means acting for one's livelihood in a manner suited to his personal nature. For a human, vritti specifically means acting for one's livelihood in a manner suited to his personal nature. Such action may be carried out either in pursuit of selfish desire or in accordance with the law of God. Text 14. In each age, the infallible Lord appears in this world, among the animals, human beings, sages, and demigods. By his activities in these incarnations, he protects the universe and kills the enemies of Vedic culture. Purport. The protective activities of the Lord, indicated by the word Raksha, constitute one of the 10 fundamental topics of a Mahapurana, or a great Puranic literature. Text 15. In each reign of Manu. 6 types of personalities appear as manifestations of Lord Hari. The ruling Manu, the chief demigods, the sons of Manu, Indra, the great sages, and the partial incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 16. Dynasties are lines of kings, originating with Lord Brahma and extending continuously through past, present, and future. The accounts of such dynasties, especially of their most prominent members, constitute the subject of dynastic history. 17. There are 4 types of cosmic annihilation: occasional, elemental, continuous, and ultimate, all of which are affected by the inherent potency of the Supreme Lord. Learned scholars have designated this topic dissolution. Text 18. Out of ignorance, the living being performs material activities and thereby becomes, in one sense, the cause of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. Some authorities call the living being the personality underlying the material creation, while others say he is the unmanifest self. Purport. The Supreme Lord himself creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmos. However, such activities are performed in response to the desires of conditioned souls, who are described herein as Hetu, or the cause of cosmic activity. The Lord creates this world to facilitate the conditioned soul's attempt to exploit nature and ultimately to facilitate his self-realization. Such conditioned souls cannot perceive their own constitutional identity. They are described here as avyakritam, or unmanifest. In other words, the living entity cannot perceive his real form unless he is completely Krishna conscious. Text 19. No shortcuts, no pills to take. You have to become fully Krishna conscious in order to see who you are. Translation. The Supreme Absolute Truth is present throughout all the stages of awareness: waking consciousness, sleep, and deep sleep, throughout all the phenomena manifested by the illusory energy, and within the functions of all living entities, and he also exists separate from all these. Thus situated in his own transcendence, he is the ultimate and unique shelter. Text 20. Although a material object may assume various forms and names, its essential ingredient is always present as the basis of his existence. Similarly, both conjointly and separately, the Supreme Absolute Truth is always present with the created material body throughout its phases of existence, beginning with conception and ending with death. Purport. Moist clay can be molded into various shapes and named water pot, flower pot, or storage pot. Despite the various names and forms, the essential ingredient, earth, is constantly present. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is present throughout a material body's stages of bodily existence. The Lord is identical with material nature, being its ultimate generating source. At the same time, the unique Supreme Being exists separately, aloof in his own abode. So I'm going to stop here. It's almost 8 o'clock. I had almost hour of reading, learning the fascinating details of the creation and the distribution of the laws of nature and the Vedic sciences that teach the conditioned soul how to live within the world of seedling desires, growing into trees and more seeds and more trees and so on, which become the tree of material existence. And it's fascinating. It should be fascinating. If it's not, we need to keep hearing until it does become fascinating. Okay, we'll stop here. If there's any reflections, any points that came out that particularly fascinated anyone.
There's something online from Doyle Nitai.
Doyle Nitai. Oh, this is right down his alley. Doyle Nitai, he's a scientist.
He says, "Dear and respected Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. All glories to your holiness. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I would have an inquiry. As it is explained that the build-up of the Srimad Bhagavatam gradually provides a darshan, so to say, of Lord Krishna, beginning from Canto 1, his lotus feet, to Canto 10, his smiling face. In the frame of this teaching, would you please explain what Cantos 11 and 12 represent? Thank you, your servant, Doyle Nitai Das."
11 and 12, well, 11 summarizes everything. Krishna summarizes everything. So it's the 10th canto is described to be like the smiling face of Krishna because it's his personal pastimes. And 11 and 12, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, there's 6 beginning chapters, middle chapter, and end chapter. And the middle chapters are the essence of the Gita, and they're protected because they're most confidential. They're protected by the first 6 and end 6. So similarly, the cantos before the 10th canto and after the 10th canto, they protect the 10th canto, even though the 10th canto is the smiling face of the Lord because it's the summum bonum. The whole Bhagavatam is a summum bonum, in one sense. So I think rather than try to say something that I don't know, I've never heard that the 11th and 12th cantos represent some part of the body other than, the feet to the head or to the smiling face. But we do know that, and we've heard that each one of the cantos describes all the different subjects that make up a Purana. So all of the different subjects are contained with each canto. So the 11th canto particularly kind of, as I see it, the main part of the 11th canto was the Uddhava Gita and the teachings of the Navayogendras. And they summarize the whole thing. Each one of those teachings summarize the whole thing. Kind of puts it together, makes it easier to understand. And now we have the 12th canto, which describes, what's going to happen and the anomalies of the Kali Yuga and how to, avoid them, how to prepare oneself, Because all of these rules and regulations and different kingly disciplic successions, or dynasties rather, they're all meant eventually to take us to Krishna consciousness. That's as much as I can say. I've never heard directly that the 11th and 12th, pertain to a particular bodily part outside of, the feet to the head. I mean, in the beginning of the creation, the external body of the Lord is described to be all the different parts of the universal clouds, or the hair on his head, and the Patala region, there's the feet, and so on. And then it gets to the other parts, and then there's the heart, there's the consciousness, there's the intelligence. These are all subtle things. But I've never heard explicitly the 11 to 12 canto being described that way as an analogy to other parts of the inner parts of the Lord. I've never heard that before. That's as far as I can take it, with my limited perspective.
Vanita says, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Rati Manjari. She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tonight I was fascinated to hear about the disciple that invoked the anger of his guru because he criticized his godbrother and wanted to perform a better penance than he thought they had done. I couldn't help remembering Srila Prabhupada having to hear the complaints of his disciples about his other disciples.
Yes.
And how he had to deal with all of that. Could you please reflect on this point if you
when Yogeshwar, who Prabhupada really liked Yogeshwar because he liked to read books. He was eager to hear from his spiritual master, and his spiritual master noted it when he gave him initiation. So Prabhupada liked it when someone liked to read his books. He really liked that. That's a lesson all of us should learn. Personally, in my own life, I'm trying to promote this. That's why I don't go into seminars and, I just like to read Prabhupada's books and try to give people devotees a taste of reading them. So Yogeshwar he loved the books. So he wrote a book called Swami in a Strange Land. You may have heard of it. And in his research, and it's a beautiful book, it kind of analyzes how Srila Prabhupada's personality, showed its development through the different stages of his life. And very wonderful book. And he says in the end of that book, in the prologue, I think it's the prologue, towards the end or the prologue, he said that in the research, he went to the archives and he found a file, or I don't know what it was, a box or a file, I don't know what it is, or a hard drive or whatever it is. And in it he found the letters that devotees wrote to Prabhupada. I mean, we have the letters that Prabhupada wrote to his devotees in the Vedabase, but we don't have the letters that Prabhupada was answering, right? So he started to read through them, and the degree of problems and quantity of problems that Prabhupada had to hear every single day, and he didn't shortcut anything. He wrote extensive letters to detail the answers to every point. And Yogeshwar says in his book that he was stunned at what Prabhupada had to tolerate in order to give us these books and do what he did to spread this movement all over the world, and then continue to travel practically until the last few months of his life when he was disabled, just to make sure that everything was going on. So he wasn't one to complain. Never. He would never point out, I mean, every once in a while he'd make a passing comment or something like that, but he would never complain about the kinds of things that he had to go through hearing from his disciples. And you never heard him criticize, maybe once or twice in all the time he was with us, when somebody did something very, 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 very rebellious and philosophically deviant, something like that. But he was so tolerant, and therefore he was like the emblem of all perfect devotional qualities. And Krishna says many times, he says, Mad Bhakta Pujam Jadika, wherein, this is the 11th canto, he says that worship of my devotees satisfies me more than worship of me. So therefore, we should not criticize devotees. Sometimes we have to defend ourselves, or we may have to make something clear that is causing, by the criticism of other devotees, disturbances in the society. And that was also very dear to Prabhupada, his society, his movement. So, like that, we should all be very, very careful. Unless we are established as an authority, and in addition to that, that the personalities who are under us are accepting us, then we should not criticize in general. It's not pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. Unless you please Srila Prabhupada, Yasya Devi Para Bhaktir, Yata Devi Tatagaro, Yasya Taikata Prakashata. And what's to speak of Yasya Prasadan, Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasad Nagati Gatopi. If you displease the spiritual master, you cannot enjoy life, you cannot go forward. So just because Yajnavalkya, started vomiting the mantras that his spiritual master gave him before, because he displeased him and he threw him away, sent him away. It very rarely happens. You don't hear about that happening very often in the Bhagavatam. But it is possible. The spiritual master usually doesn't reject the disciple unless the disciple rejects him. He doesn't part from the disciple unless the disciple rejects him. That's about all I can say about that, actually.
Rati Manjari had another reflection. She says, I was intrigued how the disciple had to give back all the mantras he had been given by his guru, and how he then vomited them out. I was wondering how this works in our case. Do we carry the Maha Mantra inside of us, and are we able to give it back? Could you please reflect on this if you want?
Maha Mantra is different. Just because these other mantras are called mantras, Maha Mantra is different. Maha Mantra is none different than the personality of Krishna. The Vedas are also, in a sense, none different than Krishna, but they're not the same. That's why, that's why Arjuna said, Krishna said to Arjuna, Traigunya Mishya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, rise above the Vedas, Vedic mantras that deal with, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, religion, and economic development, sense gratification, liberation. Maha Mantra stands supreme to all those. Just like the mantra actually was well, there's different versions. They're not, I don't want to confuse anybody because they're not different. They're not contradictory. But sound of Krishna's flute entered Brahma's ears as the Omkara. And Prabhupada said that the Mahamantra is the source of the Omkara. Omkara is contained within the Mahamantra. And there's also one of our acharyas, I can't remember which one, said that these descriptions of when things are created, they're not meant to be taken in terms of time. There was never a time when the Mahamantra did not exist. It's eternal. But sometimes it appears in different time and places, even in the spiritual world, by the mercy of the Lord to emphasize what they are. There's a story of how Govardhan appeared, for instance, even though Govardhan is eternal. There's a story of how he appeared in the material world, although he's eternal. So the Mahamantra is also said to have been spoken by Radharani when she was in the deepest feeling of separation from Krishna. So the Mahamantra is different in that sense. It's the source of everything. It's the source of all of the mantras. It's never not there. It's just we can't perceive it. We can't perceive other mantras either, and they have to come in the material world. But the Mahamantra is different. I don't know if I can go any deeper than that to explain the difference. But it's not that the Mahamantra is taken back. The Mahamantra may Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that the Mahamantra may reduce its potency, may withdraw its potency on a person who is an offender. But it's not that the Mahamantra goes away. This mantra, that mantra was not the mantra that Yajnavalkya spit it out, and then the other disciples, took the forms of partridges and ate them up and got them for themselves. That's not to be compared to the Mahamantra. That would be like comparing the demigods to Krishna, or something like that. Demigods are also expanded potencies of Krishna. They're empowered personalities, but they're not to be considered like Krishna. So the Vedic mantras that are meant for the perfection of material existence, or to live in a regulated life so that we can gradually improve ourselves in different ways, they're not to be compared to the Mahamantra. I think there may be a little bit of an indication of what we just read in that, the super soul is there always, but doesn't manifest itself. And the sound that manifests the Omkara is even more subtle. The sound that manifests from the Omkara is even more subtle, but it never leaves. As long as the body is there, it never leaves. That's as far as I can take it. That's what I know. I don't know anymore.
There's two more. One from Bhakti Doug and one from Yudutama.
Bhakti Doug, Haribol. I haven't heard from you from a long time. I'm missing you.
He says,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the translation of text 12, it is stated that the secondary creation is the manifest amalgamation of the desires of the living entities. Would you be willing to explain this a little more, please? It's such an intricate system to be satisfying the desires of so many jivas simultaneously.
Well, that's Krishna. Krishna is unlimited, and he goes with each one of the living entities. He arranges all this. Maya Dhyakshan and Prakriti Suyate Sachadacharam. He is actually behind the material energy and conducting it indirectly. And the very things, the very energies that form it are him, in a sense, his energies, expansion of him. So, but read that again, the first part of what he said.
It is stated that the secondary creation is the manifest amalgamation of the desires.
Yes. So when all the souls are wound back up into the body of Vishnu, along with all the other energies and everything, there's a kind of, how do we call it? Package. There's a package that accompanies the souls that are the unfulfilled desires that they had the last time they were in the creation, or the last time they were in their bodies. And those packets come with each conditioned soul and goes exactly where it's supposed to be in the universe and creates the body to be able to fulfill the desire of those desires that's in the karma. It's a kind of swabhava, but it's not the original swarupa. The swabhava in our material existence is swabhava nabichabhija nabikampani parasi dharmya diya chatra. This is what Krishna said to Arjuna. That you will have to act anyway, even if you don't want to do this, by your nature, you will act this way. So that's the swabhava of the soul that is created by the combined activities that the soul has done, and as it said in the text, those desires and the activities that create more desires create more activities and more desires and more more desires, and it becomes and then when the soul leaves the body, that envelope or package, which is the desires that have left over that they haven't been used, unless you fulfill your material desires and take up Krishna consciousness, unless you finish your material desires and take up Krishna consciousness, then that package remains, and you have to take another material body. And in the same sense, when everyone goes back to the spirit, the material, to body of Mahavishnu, when the next creation comes out, that same package comes out with each soul, which is the unfulfilled desires of the soul, and that determines what body the souls get. And then that process continues through one body after another, one body after another. It's actually, well anyway, it's different. It's hard to explain. The subtle desires in the subtle body carries the soul from one body to another, in the material body. But when they go back into the body of Vishnu, those subtle desires are there, but they're different. They don't have a mental body to carry them, but there's a package that's the resultant unfilled desires that they still have, and it accompanies them. That's as far as I can go, as far as I can take it.
This is a reflection from Yaduttama.
Hare Krishna Yaduttama.
He says, Dear Gurudev, please accept my respectful obeisances and all glories to Prabhupada. Thank you so much for helping us hear these nice sections of Bhagavatam. The metaphor of the seeds of material desires spreading more seeds reminded me of this really nasty gigantic plant called hogweed or cow parsnip. If you touch it with uncovered skin, it can give you very nasty chemical burns.
Yes.
The only way to mitigate it is by cutting off the flower before it seeds, preventing it from germinating next season.
Yeah.
This cutting off is like hearing Bhagavatam and Krishnaizing our activities. Thank you so much for helping us to do this every day so that our material activities don't germinate in our next bodies.
Yes, thank you very much, Hare Krishna. That's the process. Nice realization. Thanks, Yudhitthama. Okay, it's 25 after 8. We've been extending into our normal time here. Although it's not so bad because I'm feeling better. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow night. All glories to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the devotees of the Lord. And we'll see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same station, here in the haven of Hythe. Hare Krishna.